Hello, welcome back to the ocean. Before we start, I want to make something very clear. This video is not accusing anyone of committing a crime. It is not diagnosing anyone with a disorder. I am not making any claims about any specific individual's real world actions. This is a discussion about definitions, logic, and how categories of attraction are understood. There will also be discussion of sensitive topics and terminology, including minors and sexual attraction, so viewer discretion is advised. Hey guys, Theory Chum here. Today we're diving in some real murky water, and I can't lie, it's not typically waters I dive in. Not for videos, at least. As you guys know, I debate. I've been debating a long time. You know about the fictional debates as a power scaler. But even beyond that, I was a Lincoln and Douglas debater, which is the whole start of my debating experience. Now, today we're going to be talking about Chibi Reviews saying he's going to defend lolicon, and he's going to explain why calling it pedophilia is wrong. Now, that is a big claim. Naturally, you would expect clear reasoning, solid definitions, and a direct answer to the core argument. Instead, we got a whole lot of circling the reef without ever touching the shark that was actually in the water. Today, we're not here to rage, we're not here to throw insults around. We're here to do one thing, and let's follow the logic. We're not debating feelings. We're testing consistency of definitions. And if the argument holds, heck, I'll accept it. That's what you got to do. That's part of debate and being able to be educated. But if it doesn't, well, let's go ahead and take a deep dive. Now, due to the fact that I don't know if Chibi Reviews will copyright strike a small guy if he even sees this video, I'm not going to be playing his video on screen. I'm only going to be talking about it. I am going to be talking about the issues in the order that he brought them up in. So if you go watch his video, which I will not link as well, you can go look it up yourself. I don't want to be a spread of any kind of defending lolicon. That is my personal stance with my personal channel, and I can make that decision for me. You can go look it up. You can track and see exactly what I'm arguing because I'm going to bring up his arguments from the debate in the script here today. Right out the gate, and I remember this was like right about a minute and 20 seconds in, you just can't separate fiction from reality. And that sounds like a very strong argument on the surface until you actually think about it and put logic into it. Because nobody is confused on whether or not fiction is real. That is not the debate. The debate here is about what what the attraction itself is targeting. So let's go ahead and go over this because I'm going to do something he didn't do. I'm going to actually make an argument pertaining to the reason. Pedophilia, by definition, is attraction to prepubescent children, not legality, not actions, not whether it's fictional or real. It's the target. And here's the key: attraction doesn't care about the medium it's represented in, it responds to traits. If someone likes red hair, they don't stop liking red hair because it's drawn. If someone likes muscular adults, they don't automatically lose that attraction in animation. So if something depicts childlike prepubescent traits, changing it from real to fictional doesn't change the traits that are being targeted. And here's something simple people really try to skip: a drawing of something is still a depiction of that thing. A drawing of an adult is still an adult depiction. A drawing of a child is still a child depiction. Reducing it to it's just a drawing doesn't answer what's being drawn. Next, we get into this waters down the term pedophilia and it harms real victims. That immediately flips under scrutiny. A term isn't watered down when it's applied consistently over time. It's watered down when people start changing when it counts and when it doesn't. Pedophilia is attraction to prepubescent traits, and those traits are present. Applying the term is consistency. What actually waters it down is saying it only counts when it's real children or whenever it's convenient for them for it to count. And invoking hypothetical mind made up victims here doesn't resolve the logic. It redirects away from it. It's an emotional bait to deflect from the actual conversation. And there are real world discussions, especially in places like Japan, about how media trends have been normalizing youth coded sexualization over decades. Now, it is a studied effect over decades. So pretending like this just exists in some vacuum isn't accurate either. Things get personal. We do not condone, or is that the right word? We do not approve of attacking people personally in debates. That is not how the exchange of education happens. That does not teach anybody anything. It just gives people a ground to deflect the argument on. With that being said, Chibi responded to Schlepp making personal attacks on him about his fiance, while saying things like, you can't tell fiction from reality, and having an entire misrepresented thread over the entire meaning of lolicon not being pedophilia. And you'll see throughout this video doing the same thing, dodging the main argument. So he made those posts, and those posts weren't neutral. They're undermining they're undermining Schlepp's credibility. He you can't really throw subtle shots, then act surprised when things escalate. And more importantly, none of that answers the argument or defends Lolicon, what the goal of the video was supposed to do. Next, Chibi moves into motive attacks. He basically says Schlepp is just doing this for clout, and he says it on more than one occasion in the video. Schlepp's content revolves around exposing predators, and he's even worked with Chris Hansen. Now, that doesn't prove perfect intent. It's impossible to know someone's intent, and that's why Chibi tried to take this, but it absolutely contradicts the claim that it's only about profit. And even if it didn't, motive does not determine what truth is. Then we get the distraction about Schlepp editing the tweet, about him taking out the word anime from the child erotica, even though the previous claim of lolicon is pedophilia, whenever he's saying he agrees with JD on that, is still there. So here's the question. Did it change by him taking out anime? Did it change the logic of the argument? No, the traits didn't change. The argument didn't change. What's happening here is Chibi is focusing on presentation instead of the substance of the argument, which I'm going to tell you right now, we can just skip all of this. He does not do in this entire 10.5-minute video. After making a huge grandstand about how he will never be quiet about it and how he'll always stand up for it and he'll always prove people wrong, he doesn't address the main argument a single time. It is nothing but attacks on Schlepp and emotional bait the entire time. Speaking of emotional bait, he moves on into a concession from here. He's trying to say that by him taking out the word anime, he's trying to make it sound more extreme. No, Schlepp is applying a definition. If that definition fits, calling it by the definition is an exaggeration. It's the definition of consistency. But here's the deal. Extreme is an adjective. It means something being to no, you can't use the word to define a word, to be to outlier limits, to crazy limits, out of this world limits, for hyperbole, just for effect. Now, with that being said, the definition has to exist in the first place to make it extreme. Saying, oh, it is that, but not as bad, is a concession saying lolicon is pedophilia, but you're making lolicon being pedophilia an extreme here. And that's a concession of the main argument. And then he moves on to, you are comparing drawings to real victims. No, that is not the claim. The claim is about shared traits, not shared harm. The category of what something falls in is not the consequence of a legal action. This is absolutely a false equivalence, and it's just emotional bait. Then we move on to police resources, and this is going to be something else that he misrepresents an argument on that contradicts him completely and shows he concedes. He makes the argument that it wastes police resources by turning in these things, the police have to go and investigate it. That relies on a fantasy version of reality. That's not how investigations work. That's not how police works on any of these memes or anything. And what's happening here is he's misrepresenting a statement from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. They have something called the meme problem, where people keep turning in memes. And those memes, they cannot help the child in the meme, so they can't do anything about it. But even in where they say this, it's called the meme problem specifically. They say, one, you're still supposed to turn it in. You're supposed to mark it informational so it doesn't get caught up with the other with the actual other reports. And then two, they say that that material still fits the definition of CSAM. So by using this argument and trying to mirror or parrot their words and just twisting it up, they're conceding again that the material fits the definition of CSAM. But anyways, back to the point. This isn't how investigations work. There's review, there's classification of the evidence, and then there's context taken into consideration before any action. And more importantly, there is no causal link shown between definitions and criminals escaping or terms being watered down. He is just asserting that. He isn't even demonstrating it, let alone providing evidence. Next, we move to this like shifting agree to disagree limitation kind of thing, where he says, you can think lolicon is weird, just don't call it pedophilia. That's not neutrality. You're trying to find a place to stand. He's trying to limit what conclusions are allowed by drawing a further back meaning of what you're trying to say. He's trying to limit your conclusions. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And then we get to the social claims, right? He says people don't take this seriously anymore, which is an absolute lie. And then he says this has grown over 5 to 6 years. Based on what? Like, what data is there to support that? What statement says this is something that happens? And even then, right? If that inconsistency existed, which it doesn't, that still doesn't make the definition false. Then we move on to his next topic, which still isn't arguing the actual point. People against this are often criminals. This is usually connected to their reset the clock posts where they have like 200 cherry picked, hand picked examples from Twitter and Reddit saying that it's the majority of people who are against this stuff when that is not even a subset of a subset. It doesn't, there's no established pattern for that. And there are extremists and bad people in every group, even in churches and things like that. That doesn't mean the rest of it is completely gone. That doesn't mean it represents the entire group. Next, we move into him saying Schlepp should be ashamed. And this is a big no-no because whenever you're moving into saying someone should be ashamed in the middle of a debate, you are not using logic. You are not trying to attack an argument. You are taking your emotions and you are replacing your reasoning with your emotions. Doesn't attack the argument. This is just another deflection, which comes into the next crazy deflection. He says he would be making more money, he would get more sponsorships if he was coming out and saying lolicon is bad. And he swears up and down it's true. And I swear that that is nothing but speculation. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am making this video. I am going to post this video. This is not going to be some easy money route. People are on this video is not going to blow up. It's not going to be huge. He probably won't even watch it. But even then, I'm not going to get those things, right? So that immediately discredits the claim right there that this is just absolutely emotional nonsense that he's trying to push towards. Oh, and then here we get to the biggest point, right? He made this huge grandstanding on Twitter that he was going to defend lolicon. And all he did was attack Schlepp and try to attack his argument using emotional bait. He never actually defended anything other than his opinion. And that wasn't even defending the argument itself. So we are going to simplify everything right here, right now. Step 1, attraction targets traits. Step 2, pedophilia is sexual attraction to prepubescent traits. Step 3, these traits can be represented and depicted in fiction. And step 4, if someone is attracted to those traits in fiction, the traits have not changed. Only the medium and the format that the traits appear in has, which means you're still attracted to you're still sexually attracted to prepubescent traits, which is still pedophilia. Now, there's no escape frame for this, right? To disprove this, Chibi would have to be able to show that attraction is not based on traits, which completely defies biology. Prepubescent traits don't define pedophilia, which is exactly the defining trait set in the definition, or that the traits aren't present. He never shown any of that, and lolicon is explicitly meant to show young girls. That is what they're meant to depict. Whew, that was a lot. That was a lot of craziness, right? So let's go ahead and go over this again. Calling something a category of attraction is not accusing someone of a crime. One is descriptive, one is legal. And terms that are commonly brought up, I haven't seen Chibi bring it up yet, are going to be terms like fictophilia and schedophilia, which describe format, not the target of attraction. That's more of a preference, not the attraction itself. And none of this is saying someone is a criminal. Attraction is not action. If someone recognizes something concerning about themselves, seeking help is not an insult. People do not need a diagnosis to go to anger management, to go to AA, or to seek support. All they need is responsibility. So no, this isn't confusing fiction with reality. This is recognizing that representation still means to represent something. An attraction doesn't change because of the category. It changes if the target is changing. And the target doesn't change based on whether or not it's drawn or instead of real. And after an entire video, Chibi never actually answered that. So after all that talk, all that backlash about standing his ground, what actually got defended? Not the logic, just escape routes. And whenever your entire argument is built on escape routes, that's not a defense, that is a retreat. And it's the only way to avoid the conclusion. And if you have to change the definition to do that, then the problem isn't the argument, it's you. So, guys, thanks for swimming around here in the ocean, especially if you watch this video. I know it's definitely not my usual content. Sometimes the water gets stirred up and it gets cloudy, but if you just give it a second, you'll see what was there the whole time. Until next time, if you like this video, hit that like button, swim your finger on over to the subscribe button, check out some awesome FNAF content. Hopefully, I don't have to make another video like this. Until next time, stay floating in the ocean.